Hello everyone, welcome back to Mains Master. So today we are going to discuss yet another question from Indian polity. So this is a question on departmental related standing committees. So the question goes like this: while departmental related standing committees have clear abilities to strengthen the role of parliament in our country, its effectiveness have been limited, examined. Okay, so the question, the nature of the question appears very straightforward, and it is true also. It's a very straightforward question, and your ability to answer this question perfectly depends to a large extent on your knowledge of this particular topic. Okay, so this is not a question which you will answer based on your ability to structure or anything. Those are all important, but you require certain core technical knowledge on the topic. Okay, so that is how you will be in a position to write a good answer in this question. It's not a very rigorous, it doesn't demand much rigorous analytics if you know the topic properly. Okay, so that is just the idea that I wanted to emphasize. Then another thing about departmental related standing committees, I hope all of you know about this institution. So you shouldn't be confusing this with the regular parliamentary standing committees like Public Accounts Committee or Estimates Committee and things like that. These are totally different entities, though constituting of members from parliament itself. But the idea behind the formation of these committees were to assist different government departments particularly. Okay, or you can think of it as a liaison between parliament and executive at different departments. Okay, so that is a domain in which this institution works. It has been very effective at many times in the past, but of late there has been instances of slackness or ineffectiveness from the committee. So that is a larger context of this question. So let us see how we can structure this answer. Okay, so that is a major thing. You have to get it right. So like I said, even now at this point when you are writing, I want all of you to write the structure of the answer before you go ahead with the actual content. Okay, so the model would be IBC, the intro body conclusion model. So in the introduction, you can always say what is a departmental related standing committees. You can define, you could briefly mention what their functions are, just to give a context of the topic. Then you can also say, see, by now I think you have got a hang of how you write polity introduction. See, when it comes to economy or when it comes to certain factual topics, it's always good that you bring in some factual data in the beginning, or maybe in some areas in the polity you can even bring in constitutional provisions or articles. But some places it's always better to set the larger context using that first statement in the question. Okay, so from the first statement in the question we are getting a mixed picture of the effectiveness of DRSA, right? So it's not saying that they have been always effective, but or they have been effective, but or they have a crucial role, but their effectiveness have been limited. So that is the context. So you can just mention, you can just give you an overview of the performance. Okay, overview of the performance or the effectiveness, taking a middle path. Okay, you can't say they are really good. You can't argue in that position because there has been many criticism raised against it, and you can't also say that they have been an abject failure because that is also not true. So you have to go with the middle path clearly here. So overview of the effectiveness, I am just writing it like that, but the idea is you take a middle path there. Okay, then moving to the body, you have some things which has to be written here. So here I want to bring your attention to certain implicit aspects of the question. So the question is saying that while departmental related standing committees have clear abilities to strengthen the role of parliament, its effectiveness has been limited, and you are asked to examine that statement, right? So you know how examine works now, right? You are going to go into very rigorous detail into the depths of the topic, and you are going to make some assessment of what these things are. So one thing is that you have to establish the fact that departmental related standing committees have a role to play in improving the effectiveness of parliament. That is something you have to establish. Then what else you have to establish? but there are certain challenges in the functioning of departmental related standing committees which limit their effectiveness. Okay, so I think from the very question statement itself, you can draw those two headings to put in points, right? But does it end there? Okay, so you are saying departmental related standing committees are very crucial, but they have a limitation. Then what would be the next logical idea that you have to present? You have to give solutions to improve the scenario. Okay, and ideally I would want to see some 3-4 solutions, so I would want you to write that along with the body paragraph itself. Okay, so you got the idea, right? So that's what I mean by explicit and implicit. So always all that things that you write in an answer won't be explicitly asked in the answer. In this question, there is no solution being asked in the question, right? But we have to write solution. When it comes to UPSC, you always write solution because the question lies essentially in a problem solving domain. Okay, so you could say how departmental related standing committees are able to strengthen the role of the parliament or role of DRSC in strengthening. Okay, so okay, I hope you get the idea, right? Because when I wrote it went away. How DRSCs help in strengthening parliament. Okay, so that is one. So basically this means the advantages or positives of having departmental related standing committees. Then you write the reasons for their ineffectiveness or reasons for their limited effectiveness. Due to paucity of space, we write very little words here. So I hope you pardon me for that. So reasons for ineffectiveness. So that is the next set. Then you have to give in how to resolve those weaknesses or challenges. It could be both. Okay, how to resolve those weaknesses or challenges to the departmental related standing. So here you have 3 headings in the body area itself. Okay, then you go for the conclusion. So what is the kind of conclusion you can take it here? So I'll just show you how to arrive at this place. Okay, so in the introduction, we are mentioning about what DRSC is, and we are making a brief overview of the overall performance of DRSC so far. Then we look into the current reality. We identified it has a positive role in strengthening parliament. Then we came to its challenges or the challenges that it is facing. And then we are saying how we can resolve these challenges. So once you reach here, what is that logical position here? So when you reach right till here, you are clearly establishing a good place for DRSC, right? You have solved all the problems pertaining to departmental related standing committees, and and departmental related standing committees are all rejigged to help improve the parliamentary position. Okay, then what should be the logical conclusion that should come from there? So that is a way in which you should be thinking about conclusion. So if DRSCs are resolved of all their weaknesses or all their challenges are resolved, what role can they do in strengthening parliament? Okay, you can either write that as a conclusion, or you could say both. You could say that the particular role that DRSC can play in strengthening the parliament, and you could also say how that strengthening of parliament is in the larger interest of this country, or why it is very crucial to strengthen parliament through DRSC playing an active role. So these are the different ideas you can take for writing a conclusion. So you could say how a strong DRSC, I mean departmental related standing committee, can create a effective parliament. Okay, so I think that goes for a decent conclusion. If you answer this, how a strong departmental related standing committee can help create an effective parliament, and you close the answer. Okay, so you could give some examples in the body paragraphs, 1 or 2 examples, that should be fine. So say the structure is fairly simple, fairly straightforward, but I want in your answer, I want all these questions to be answered in your answer. So there has to be all these elements in the answer. So that is what I mean by the demand of the question. So when your answer is being evaluated by the evaluator, you should be judged, or you will be judged on these demands. So if you are meeting all these elements, so there could be a different logical structure also, I'm perfectly fine with it, but all of these major elements which comes as a natural consequence of that question has to be there in your answer. That is the only time when you get more than 50% in your GS. Okay, so it's not just content alone, it's just not putting content alone that is going to take you there. So watch out for this structure. Okay, so now let us move to the detailed content. Now let us go into the core content of the answer. Let's see how the introduction can pan out. So you could briefly define what DRSCs are. Departmental Related Standing Committees are an institutional innovation in the Indian parliamentary system so as to help achieve division of labor. Okay, so that is one term you can. It's an institutional innovation to, division of labor. So what is this division of labor? So there is so much work to be done for the Indian Parliament, and they won't be able to do that job properly all by themselves. So they need some ancillary support, right? So that is how in managerial parlance you call as division of labor. So basically this department related standing committees are a mechanism to bring in division of labor, and they help in certain crucial functions, right? That is also something you can write it down. This is just the generic idea, division of labor. You could also mention some of their crucial functions, which include they examine bills that are referred to them, then they select specific topics related to the ministries and monitor the implementation by the government. So by now, I think you are pretty clear, right, how this works. So this departmental related standing committees work in tandem with the government. Okay, so the parliament in tandem with the government. So or maybe it's an institutional innovation to help achieve division of labor, or maybe another way in which you can introduce it is that it's an institutional innovation to help the parliament's efforts to make the executive accountable. Okay, so that I think that would be a better introduction. So then you can bring in the idea of division of labor. Okay, so both can go together. So departmental related standing committees help the parliament do its role better, which is that of making the executive accountable before the people's representatives, and it also helps in the aspect of this managerial task of division of labor. So the major functions of them still include examining bills which are referred to them, monitoring specific implementation of specific topics under the ministry. They monitor that. Then they examine the budgetary outlays of the department. So for example, the railway department, there would be a departmental related standing committee that is associated with the Ministry of Railways. They would be examining the budgetary outlays of the last year. So how much money they have been allotted in the railway budget. Now it has got merged. So how much money they have been allotted, what have they done with that, have they done expended it in a much fiscally prudent way. These are all the questions they would look into. Okay, so they can examine the budgetary outlays. They can even scrutinize the budgetary estimates that the departments make prior to the budget being presented in the parliament. You know about that, right? So every year by around August, September, the ministry asks the departments to send their requirement of budget. Okay, how much cut they want from the total budget so as to keep running their program. So even the departmental related standing committees even look into that aspect also. So these are some of the functions, but these are the broader context. Division of labor, then help the parliament make the executive accountable. Okay, I think even that is also important. So this is one of the most fundamental function of the parliament, right? So broadly speaking, Indian parliament has two most important functions. One is that of lawmaking, and another is to make the executive accountable. Okay, so departmental related standing committees are very fundamental to help achieve that. So that is the introduction, the definitional, the technical introduction you can give. Then you can say that while these departmental related standing committees have so much abilities to increase the effectiveness of parliament, of late their performance has revealed a mixed record or something like that. Okay, so you just need to show that although they have a potential, they are not up to mark of late. So that is the idea you want to convey in the next sentence in the introduction. Then you move to the body. See, here you have so many questions to be answered, right? So you could say that, so while the departmental related standing committees increase the overall effectiveness of parliament, help them to make laws better, help the government, help the parliament to hold the government accountable, and also give sanctions for public spending, they are also beneficial in the following ways. First of all, they help parliament manage its business better. Help parliament to manage its business better. So here you can maybe use another sentence to explain this idea. Okay, so how does departmental related standing committees help parliament manage its business better? So when it comes to lawmaking, right, you know, there are different stages of bills moving: first reading, second reading. Normally it would be sent to a joint committees or select committees, but before all this, you have this departmental related standing committee looking into this bill, or even after that also they can look into it. So it is easier to examine a topic in depth by about 30 to 40 people rather than by an assembly of 700, right? So just imagine the entire parliament scrutinizing a bill in detail, and just imagine about 30 to 40 people scrutinizing a bill in detail, which is going to be more effective. The 30 people thing, right? So they help parliament manage its business better. So once the departmental related standing committee does a critical scrutiny of the bill, it would be arriving at the parliament at the initial stages in a much refined format. Okay, so there would be much more refinement to the particular bill reaching the parliament. Maybe you can think in the other way also. Okay, if there is no initial scrutiny by departmental related standing committees, the bill would be coming directly from the government department to the parliament. So there could be so many possibilities of conflict. One, the government wants to push some agenda, but the parliament wants to cut short that. So there could be so many of the conflicts, which when we go through the departmental related standing committees, you can avoid a lot of it. So overall, it can manage its business better. Second thing is, the DRSC helps to bring input from experts. Okay, so that is a very crucial thing. So normally in the parliamentary system, what you have to know is that these parliamentarians are laymen, right? So they won't be having expertise in any particular topic. So they are known as dilettante politicians. I think I have told you that. So this is a term you can write in your answer also. They are dilettante politicians, or which otherwise means they are not experts in any subject. So there could always be weaknesses in the bills being framed by parliamentarians. So the departmental related standing committee has an institutional scope to bring input from experts. Maybe people working in what do you call think tanks. They can bring in people from think tanks, from Niti Aayog, or from institutions like PRS, pre-legislative briefing service. I hope all of you know what that is. So they could bring experts from all around the world if they want, and they can help make the bill a much better version. So, and another thing is that they often, department related standing committees often ask people to give their comments. So there is also a pre-legislative, what you call, scrutiny by the publics, which is a really good thing for a democracy, right? So a bill, before it reaches the parliament, there could be comments solicited from the public. Okay, you can seek out the comments of the public. So that is the possibility offered by department related standing committee, which is a real deepening of democracy, if you could say. Another thing is that since the functioning and the conduct of departmental related standing committees are all outside public glare, so there is much easier possibilities of reaching consensus between the members. Okay, see, these departmental related standing committees are not all composed by the ruling members. There would be members from the opposition party. So, but there is no public glare to the whole their formalities. When they meet, there is no televising of their proceedings. So people don't want to talk, like they don't want to show that grandstanding to the media. They don't want to show that grandstanding to the larger electorate, which they get through the media. So there are no such possibilities. So since they are away from public glare, easy to reach consensus. Away from public glare, EC consensus on crucial policy matters. Okay. Another very important thing, the anti-defection law does not apply to the committee deliberations. So I think this would be the one of the crucial points. I think you could even put it on a top. I think that would be a better priority, because yeah, this is a really important point, because especially from a UPSC standpoint, I would say in 2013, and I think it was in 2018 or 2019, the UPSC had a question in mains about the declining role of individual MPs and the role of anti-defection and things like that. So that is something which has been discussed quite a lot in the Indian system. So anti-defection, the issue with anti-defection is that whenever a topic is being discussed in the parliament and whenever a bill or anything is being made, as the anti-defection thing remains, there would always be a direction by the whip to the members of their parties. Okay, not only from the chief government whip, but from other whips also. So the individual MPs are not in a position to exercise their free will. They can't indulge in a serious debate on any of these matters. They could only tag along with the party line. Okay, so that is a serious limitation to the role of individual MPs. So as in the deliberations of departmental related standing committees, there is no operation of anti-defection. So members are all free to air their views. Okay, so I could give you a scenario. For example, the GST was brought by UPA, but the GST was implemented by the BJP. So in the actual parliament, you would see the Congress people rejecting their own provisions which they had brought in their time. Okay, but in the departmental related standing committee, this kind of a public grandstanding would remain, because actually the fights they are picking up in the parliament are largely to send a message, or are to take a better position before the electorate. That is the sole intention of that. It's not that they believe in what they're saying when it comes to all those things. So the non-applicability of anti-defection in the case of departmental related standing committee deliberation is a really positive thing. I think there is another crucial point. These committees, they try to bring expertise among members. So how it happens is that these committees allow its members to focus on some crucial areas. So one member would always be focusing on defense related issues, another would be focusing on telecommunication, another would be on general infrastructure, another would be on IT. So the members are going to specialize their knowledge on all these topics. So what happens is that the dilettante politicians would immediately transform into experts on those matters, and that is very crucial for a parliamentary system, right? We need experts deliberating on topics. We need people who can understand the pulse of the public, which the politicians always do, but we also need people who can understand it from an expert's point of view. So the departmental related standing committees actually facilitate that gaining of expertise among the members. So for example, there have been some members which immediately comes to mind is one Rajya Sabha MP from Kerala, MP Rajiv. He's known all over. He's very famous in the parliament as a great parliamentarian. Then the Baijayan Pandey from Odisha, he's a great parliamentarian. So these are people who actively, then N.K. Premchandran again from Kerala. So these are real good parliamentarians who actively indulge in debates, and they do this in the departmental standing committees of late. Earlier it was in the actual parliament, now they do it in the standing committees. So these are the positives to the functioning of parliament by virtue of having a proper departmental related standing committee. So you have 5 points in that direction. Now you have to see the challenges. So far we were mentioning the way in which departmental related standing committees can increase the effectiveness of parliament. Now we move to the other side, where we try to analyze why its role has been limited recently. So the reasons for limited effectiveness of the standing committees or the departmental related standing committees. Okay, so first of all bills are not referred to the committees. Okay, so if they are not getting any bills, there is no scope of doing anything with them, right? So all bills are not referred. So in the UPA 1 and 2, they used to refer as high as 60 to 70% of the bills. But in the last, the first BJP government or the NDA government, they just referred 27% of the bills that was tabled in the parliament. So that is a extremely low number, right? So here is an institutional mechanism that helps to bring expertise, that helps to remove partisanship from the deliberation, that helps to debate any topic in a much deeper manner, which is all very essential in lawmaking. But here you don't have all bills being referred to the committee. It's not all bills. So somewhere around almost 70% of the bills are not referred. And very crucial thing is even the constitutional amendment for related to GST was not referred to the Departmental Related Standing Committee by the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha sent it to some select committee or something because they were more constituted by opposition parties. But in the Lok Sabha, they didn't even mention, they didn't even take up the GST bill or they didn't refer the GST bill to Departmental Related Standing Committee. So that is a very important factor to reduce the effectiveness of DRSCs of late. Okay, so that would be the first point. The second thing is that the recommendations are not binding. So that is going to be a pretty tough thing, right? So they can do all this in-depth study, they can sit in-house and do all these expert recommendations and stuff, but they remain as recommendations. They are not binding on the parliament. So it makes sense at one level. At one level, you can't make something binding until all of the parliamentarians agree, because that is the core of the parliamentary democratic system. But since these are not binding, very often when the Departmental Related Standing Committees make or give recommendations which are not conducive to the political exigencies of the ruling government, they rarely finds its way into the bill or into the act. So that is a increasing reason for their ineffectiveness of late. The third thing is lack of research support. So the activities of the DRSCs are done by MPs itself, and some MPs and some of the more passionate MPs, they do have interns also. They do have people who are passed out from national law schools, IAMs and things like that, who do their intern work. So that is the only kind of research support they are not getting. They don't have a dedicated cell which will do the research on behalf of the MPs. So that is also limiting the effectiveness. Another point is that another issue is that the Departmental Related Standing Committee meetings, they are all conducted in closed door, and only the final report is published with the summary of the minutes. So we don't know how the deliberations have gone, what has been the different positions. We actually don't know what is transpiring behind those closed doors. Okay, so lack of transparency in their functioning. So even while I am putting this as a limitation, lack of transparency in the functioning, this same point is also a positive thing in another respect. So in this answer, you don't have to put it as a positive point, you can give it as a negative point itself. But I just want to direct your attention to the positive side of this argument also. So actually, the studies have shown that the role of or the quality of parliamentary debates has actually lowered since televising of parliamentary debates. Okay, you could imagine, right, why the reason was. So the parliamentarians earlier, they had certain tasks before them. They just deliberated, they came up with bills or added amendments and things like that. But now it is a chance for every parliamentarian to directly show their greatness or whatever it is toward before the electorate itself. So they use that to the maximum advantage. And another thing is that nobody is going to watch the entire televised proceedings of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but those proceedings would be taken by news TV channels, right? The mainstream news TV channels. But what would be those things that the mainstream news channels are interested in? Some controversies. So they would pick up some walkout into the well, or some paper throwing, or people sleeping in the assembly and things like that. So it's all that dysfunctionalities of the parliament gets televised by virtue of the way in which our media functions. limitation. So people are of the opinion that, okay, you shouldn't be televising the parliamentary committee meetings also, because they would also start doing all this drama before the public. But in another way, we actually don't know what is transpiring also. So it's both a limitation and a positive thing. But in this context, you can put it as a limitation. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why their effectiveness have been limited. So on both sides you have approximately equal number of points, right? 5 on the other side, almost 4 points on this side. I think that is more than enough. Okay, so this is just a 10 marker question. So you give reasons for their limited effectiveness. Now what you should say? The solutions to improve the situation, right? So that is the third part in the body paragraph. So what can be done for that? One thing is, you have to bring in some mechanism for mandatory examination, or you have to send all bills to the committees, departmental related standing committees, on a compulsory basis. All bills that are due for introduction in the parliament has to be sent to the departmental related standing committees. So mandatory examination by DRSC. So that would increase their role, that would increase the ability to bring more depth and refinement into parliamentary debates, that would increase the ability to reduce, or that would reduce the overall partisanship nature of the debates and all those things. And that would even increase the role of individual MPs in the parliamentary deliberations. So dedicating or sending all bills to the DRSC is a positive first step. Then another thing what you can do is, you have to create research teams to give them research supports. So this could be an interdisciplinary team of experts. You could have people from institutions like IDSA, Institute of Defense and Strategic Analysis, who are experts in the national security domain. Then you could have people from institutes like National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, where you have experts on economics and public finance. Then from the infrastructural think tanks, from Niti Aayog. So all of these people could be brought together as an interdisciplinary research team, so as to give support to the MP, so that all those research improvements that happening at the academic level gets reflected in the policy making level also. So that would be a great thing to bring about. Another thing is that there should be some mechanism to increase the transparency of input from advocacy groups. So since all of these deliberations are happening behind closed doors, the kind of expert councils that these members get, we never know what is happening to them. Okay, some of the expert advice would be taken up by the committee, some would be just shunned away. So I think there has to be, or they're saying that there has to be some transparency into the inputs given by advocacy. Okay, advocacy group. So this could be some of the solution. What could be other solutions? This binding nature, it's kind of difficult to bring in, but you could say that the parliament, or the parliament has to give a report as to why the recommendations of committees have not been taken. So that is something you can take up, just like the CAG's report, right? The parliament could give an action taken report on the committee recommendation. So that is something which would help to legitimize the standing committees in a much better way. So I think that would be the overall solution. So the conclusion, like I said, it could go something like, so properly strengthening the departmental related standing committees in these desirable lines would go a long way in increasing the effectiveness of parliament vis-a-vis executive and judiciary. Okay, so of late, the quality of the debates, the quality of the parliamentarians, the quality or their ability to intervene effectively in the society has all taken a hit. Okay, so overall status of the parliament is going down maybe for in the last 2 decades. So strengthening the role of department related standing committees would be a great shot in the arm on improving the erstwhile status and dignity of parliament in this country, and thereby it can help the parliament to make the executive accountable, and also to create laws that have more technical merit, as well as that is more in tune with the ground reality. So that could be the overall gist or tone of the conclusion in which you can conclude this answer. I hope you got the thing right. So watch for the structure, watch for all the elements that are part of the structure, and do and add decent content with decent examples. Okay, thank you.